Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Maine Deer Hunters Live Spotlight Series. This is episode number 1, where we are featuring Jake Rackliff. He is a registered Maine guide and owner of Cast and Call Guide Service. Now, this Spotlight series is going to focus on those folks that have given back to us via sponsorship, like we had in our 12 Days of Christmas giveaways and through the various programs that we run here at Maine Deer Hunters. And if you are one of those folks and you'd like to be on the show, reach out to Bob or I, and we can certainly get you on. And with that, take her away, Bob.
All right. Thanks, Daniel, and thanks, Jake, for being with us tonight. And thank you very much for your generous donation to our 12 Days of Christmas and to all you bring to the site.
I was really happy to do it. I recently reached out. I got reached out to by the mom from the kid that got the hunt, and they are so excited.
Well, we're gonna talk a little bit more about that, and we're gonna talk about who you are and what you're all about. But let's start with just a little brief kind of a bio, so that tell people who Jake Rackliff is. Where did you grow up, and how did you get into hunting and fishing?
Oh, sure. Well, I grew up in a little town called Vienna, a little bit north of Belgrade. I like to call it the halfway point between Farmington and Augusta. It's like right there in the middle. I grew up in the foothills chasing whitetails with my grandfather and my great uncles and my father. And it was a huge part of my childhood and my upbringing. November, I missed a lot of school, the chasing deer is in our blood, and I loved learning about the deer and everything about them. And my family has such huge respect for whitetails. It really put me on a good foot forward. When you live, breathe, and bleed hunting, you kind of get that inkling to share it with other people. Mm-hmm. So my grandmother and a few other family members were Maine guides, and it was something I always wanted to do. When I was 15, I went to Maine Conservation School and took the Junior Maine Guide program and passed, and then I taught it after that with Ron Fournier, which I know a lot of people know that name. I taught there for 4 seasons, and then wasn't really sure what I wanted to do after that, and did a little bit of dog sledding out in the Western Mountains, did a lot of construction work, traveled around, and it took about 15 years, and I finally figured out I wanted to pull the trigger on being a guide. So 2019, I got my fishing guide's license and spent the summer trolling and bringing people down the Saco River and having a blast, especially with kids and, beginners. My favorite thing to do is see people pick up new skills and put them to work. So then about a year later, I went back and I doubled down and took my hunting and recreation tests together and passed that. And last season was my second season guiding deer hunting and turkey hunts. And this one coming up will be my third. Here we are.
So you're probably like a lot of people, and very much like I was when I was about your age. You still have a full-time 9 to 5 or 8 to 6 or 7 to 7 job. But like so many people, maybe it's not entirely personally fulfilling, and you'd like to step it up a little bit. And obviously hunting and fishing are passions of yours. So yeah. Tell us a little bit about the next step for Jake.
Okay. So the past couple of years, like you said, I've doubled down. So you know how that is with family life. It makes it really tough. So I got little kids. They're 2 and 4. I've been with my wife for about 10 years. She knows the drill. Like November rolls around and I'm not home. That's just how it is. Ice fishing season, I'm out like every weekend. Turkey season, I'm out every morning before sunrise. It's just doing my 9 to 5 job just doesn't really do it for me anymore, and which it had its place to pay bills. But now I'm in a little bit better place, and was able to collaborate with my boss, and he is allowing me to kind of do like part-time as needed type stuff during peak season. So I'm more or less going to take the bull by the horns and guide as much as possible this year. And I think the first 2 weeks of turkey season is booked solid already. A few other trips in there. May I have a lot of trips. And then in June, I think I have 9 trips booked so far. And then hunting season's pretty much, the first 2 weeks are full already. So I'm just going to keep pushing my name, I'm coming up with new stuff. I bring a lot of beginners who they just want to learn. So I'm putting together some workshops and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great niche, and I think it's still somewhat unexploited.
Yes.
Everybody of a certain age now, if you want to get into hunting, you have to take a hunter safety course, but that teaches you how to be a safe hunter. It doesn't teach you how to hunt. So there's a lot of people that want to get into it, especially now where people are more inclined to want to go out and harvest their own food. Before it was just the hardcore outdoor sports people, but now there's a whole new vibe going on. The whole locavore thing and self-sufficiency, living off the land, raising, growing, harvesting your own food. So there's a great niche there. So tell us a little bit about specifically what kind of hunting, fishing are you specializing in?
So with deer hunting, I'm coming up with you could call it the foundations of chasing Maine white-tailed deer. So what I'm going to do is I have a lesson plan I've been working on already. Just like when I used to teach skills to kids and young adults at Bryant Pond, I'm going to do it now and start from the bottom. So anything from setting up your tree stand safely to setting up a deer camera to the timing on when deer are coming through and why they're there, just from top to bottom. And I'm really excites me because I love seeing new people. Like I said, I like seeing them learn new skills. So I brought a young man last year for a good example. He's not even that young. I don't know. He's like early 20s. He hunted 5 years, had only seen like 2 deer in the flesh. And I was like, well, you must be, something's going on. Let's work on just some basic stuff. So I brought him in the woods, and we were in the woods probably 10 minutes, and we already had deer moving. And he's like, that's ridiculous. How did you do that? I said, well, I put a lot of time in. I know where to bring you. I know why they're there and what they're doing there. And I walked him to a ground scrape. In the first 5 minutes we were in there, and he's like, I've only seen 2 of these ever in my whole life. And I showed him about 20 of them, and that really fired me up, just seeing him be so happy just to learn about that. So this fall, that's going to be my focus is, I'm going to have some deer hunters who are seasoned who are coming in just to do some semi-guided hunts. I offer semi-guided hunts as well, where I just pretty much just bring them into where they're going to hunt that morning. And if they shoot something or need help, I'll be there to help them. But then I've got the 100% hands-on hunts where I'm with them all day, calling, walking, tracking, anything like that. And then the foundations of hunting will literally be a whole day from dawn until dusk, covering every skill we can, just the basics, just to get people started.
Yeah,
that's going to be my
real value there. I think a lot of us that have been doing this for a while, we take so much for granted, and we kind of get into this mindset where we think everybody knows everything we know, and that's an important point to remember on in the Maine Deer Hunters Facebook group. There's a lot of people out there that have little or no experience, and they're going to ask questions that some people think, well, what are you doing hunting if you don't even know that? Well, we all started in the same place. We all
That's
started not
exactly
knowing a
right.
thing, and so again, I think there's a real value for something like that, and I think um,
Definitely.
not just through a guide service, but I think it's something that we as a group and through our members can offer, and be considerate and be forthcoming with the information. I've talked to some of the hardcore deer trackers, and they'll tell you the same thing. There's no secret. There's no secret formula. There's no silver bullet. It's common sense. It's hard work, and it's experience. There's no substitute for experience, and
Exactly.
it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, it may if you have beginner's luck, but you got to go out there and do it over and over and stop and pay attention to what you see and try to figure out what does that mean. If you see a bare patch of dirt on the ground, what does it mean? And why is it there?
Exactly. Yep. So that's the plan. And I even talked to the legend himself a little bit about it. Hal Blood. He and I touched base a little while back and wanted to pick his brain a little because he offers such wonderful classes for tracking, big bucks, Maine whitetails. And I asked him what he thought, and he said the same thing you said, Bob, was that it's a niche. There's nobody really does that. He teaches the advanced stuff, but no one really does the foundations of hunting. And that's what really
Yeah, and another part of that is, like Hal and my good friend, rest his soul, Dick Bernier, the Benoits. They have a niche, which is up there in the North Woods. You pick up a track and you follow it to its logical conclusion. But um, that's a there's a lot more hunters that are hunting southern and central Maine,
Yep.
and it's a whole different ball game down here. So you can teach them something that maybe those guys they have their niche, and then you can have yours.
Exactly. Yep.
I mean, a whitetail is a whitetail to a certain extent, but everybody says, "Oh, they're kind of like turkeys." They say, "Oh, they're tame." I see them in my backyard and in my backfield, which is true. But put on a camo jacket and step off the deck, and it's a completely different animal.
It sure is.
So, how about let's shift gears a little bit.
Sure.
Everybody has you always remember your first one. Tell me about your first deer.
My first deer. Well, my family had an orchard, and unfortunately now it's changed hands. My great uncle died, and the property sold. We're still allowed to hunt it, and I'm grateful for that. It was the old homestead from my great grandfather and great grandmother, and the cellar hole is still there. There's granite. And what we used to do was set up on the back side of the old cellar hole and for kind of a backdrop area to get some cover. And we'd set up right there, and the deer would come out to the apple trees. We only had 4 or 5 left. It used to be a beautiful orchard. And there's nice apple trees and green grass and raspberry bushes all the way around it. It was beautiful. And even winter pear. So if the snow hit the ground, they were all over those pears and all of the apples. Late season there was amazing. But what it is a giant swale down over the hill from there, and the deer would lay down in the swale during the day and then work their way up the hill at night in the evening before dark through a big hardwood ridge that's between the two, feed their way in, and then come hit the apples and green grass. I was sitting with my father on youth day, and
How old were you?
I was 13.
Okay.
That was my first one. I didn't start when I was 10. I think I was 11 when I started carrying a gun, and it was a 410 single shot. That was my first gun that I carried. And So I was 13 this year, and I had put in a lot of work and a lot of time with my dad. And I remember he helped me get this gun from my uncle, and I still have it. I've killed every deer I've ever shot with it, besides with my bow. And it's just a 30-06 semi-automatic Remington 7400, basic model, great gun. So I was using it that year for my youth deer, and I remember being really tired and sitting there with my dad because we had hunted all morning looking for deer, and then we went to sit that evening, and I'm almost falling asleep. And my dad nudges me. He's like, "Here comes your deer." I'm like, "Well, what do you mean? I don't see it." He's like, "Here comes your deer. You got to pay attention." And I looked, and from the very, very, very bottom corner, here comes this good-sized deer, and it zigzags its way up, smelling the ground, eating grass, eating apples, stopping at the trees, checking stuff out, and we had the third, second, and first tree is what we'd call it when you could see him. The third tree was furthest away, first tree being closest, and it made it to the first tree. And the first tree is only about 50 yards. And the thing it turned broadside, and Dad says, "Anytime, shoot him whenever you're ready." And I remember him being so close to me, I could feel his breath on me. He was like, so excited that it was going to happen. And he heard the safety flick off. When I fired, he was on the wrong side of the gun, and the shell hit him on the face. He was so close to me. And I shot the deer. I remember it going down, and the emotions that flow through you on your first deer, it's unbelievable. I felt grief, but I felt, being like pride, because I knew my dad was so proud of me. I knew my grandfather was going to be proud. And I remember my dad just yelling at me. He's like, "Keep it on him. Keep the gun on him. Make sure he doesn't get back up." And I remember the buck struggling and trying to get back up, and it fell back down. That was it. And it was a nice 3-point buck, about 140 pounds. That was and I'll never forget it.
Yeah, I wish every kid could start their hunting career that way. I think if I were king and there was a law, I would say every kid has to start with a spike horn or a 4-pointer.
It was something.
You go out and you shoot this giant, massive thing your first time, and you're spoiled.
Yep.
There's only no place to go but down. So you start small, you work your way up, and you set the bar higher and higher. And I know you had a good year this year, and we talked about it the other day. That raised the bar for you, and now you're ready to go a little bit bigger. So
I am.
Tell us about a little bit about what went into that particular deer.
Sure. Well, it started with this one right here. So the year before, so it would have been year of 2020, November. I got this guy. I got him in a bog. He was chasing a doe. First one I've ever shot out of a tree stand in my life, besides with my bow. But usually I'm on foot, or I'll use my surroundings to my advantage. This guy, we've been seeing him on camera, and I just lucked out. So this year I went into the same area but from a different direction, and decided to poke around because it looked really good. And I didn't make it in the woods 50 yards, and there was a ground scrape, fresh tracks. I was on opening day in the pouring rain, and made my way through the area. It looked pretty good. Lots of scrapes, lots of rubs, lots of droppings, pretty tracked up. And so I was like, man, this looks really good right here. And I didn't have any cameras in here, nothing like that. And which, it's kind of uncommon. Like I have cameras everywhere, but it's that one area. And I didn't put any cameras in there. I stayed right away from it. And a lot of people, if you are part of the group, you probably saw my post where I went swimming on the first day. That was in there. So that day I ran into a couple smaller bucks, and it just didn't work out. And I think between me and my cousin, and then my father-in-law was hunting the same area, we saw 9 deer that day. It was a pretty good day. My father-in-law filled his bonus tag that day as well. And I worked all week, and I was like, man, I got to get back in there. You know, I was just itching for it all week. I just wanted to take the time off and go back. It's like, well, that's not going to happen. So we'll go right back in on that Saturday, the next Saturday. So it was the second Saturday of the season. And I made it in the woods, ran into some does. The does, they didn't go very far. I actually called them back in a few times after bumping them, just using a fawn in distress, and they came right back. And I was like, okay, well, if there's a few does like this, there's got to be some bucks around. I made it just a little bit further in the woods, and I found this area. I call it Scrape City. I counted about 50 scrapes in this one area, and I've never seen anything like it in my life. And you could smell it. Like, you could literally smell the rut in the air. And I got a little further along, and you could actually see a spot where two bucks had put a whooping on each other. It was all ripped up. The trees are all broken. It just stunk real bad. I'm like, this is it. I'm like, I'm on top of them. So I did spot and stalk. So I basically would walk just a few feet, and then I'd wait a few minutes, and I'd walk a few feet and wait a few minutes. I'm sorry, my daughter's in the background. Sophie, 1 second, guys. Sophie, can you go back upstairs with Mama?
Hi, Sophie.
Sorry, guys.
Hi, Sophie.
She's so sweet. You guys want to say hi? Come here. Come here. Hi, guys. This is my little deer princess right here.
Hi there.
Hi, Sophie.
You go with Mama, please.
You're on TV.
Okay. So I'm back. So I rounded the corner next to a swamp. Guy, what are you doing? I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, no.
No, don't
All right,
be
so
bad.
here I am. So I make it around the corner by this bog after I see all that activity. And now the wind is, I'm trying to think. There was a crosswind, and then I turned and I'm going into the wind 100%. And I find this big scrape, and it was fresh, but as fresh as it gets. And it was as longer than my gun. I took a picture of it, and it was probably 4 feet wide. So I think the scrape was like 4 by 5. It was pretty big. So I make it about 30 yards past that, and I hear this tremendous crash. And in my head, I'm like, I'm done. I messed up. I must have blown the deer out of here. And I looked, and here comes this doe hauling. I mean, she's jumping like 30 feet at a time, and she's coming like right at me. I'm like, holy cow. She flies by me at like 15 feet maybe, and coming from like at me. So I know I didn't jump her, and I look behind her, and here comes a big set of antlers, and he's running. I'm like, oh, holy cow. All right. Trying to collect myself because he's right behind her. And as I'm swinging to shoot in the opening that I'm hoping he stops at, he sees me. And I thought I was busted because he looked right at me. I'm like, oh, God. He stops, hides behind this big oak tree. And all I could see is his rear quarter. So I've got the scope on him. And he kind of does one of these and looks from behind the tree, and I fired right as he moved. And I hit him in the shoulder, and he only jumped twice, and he stood there again. And I thought I had missed, and he piled right up. And it was, I want to call it textbook, spot and stalk on his terms. It was definitely one of my favorite hunts I've ever had. I'd call it fair.
Well,
How about that?
There's 3 or 4 important points there that you addressed. One is recognizing the situation. You're in there and you're smelling deer. That smell doesn't linger long, so it's time to be on your toes. 2, you recognize the scrape, and that and you knew the time. This is the rut. It's time to slow down, take your time, Obviously, you were paying attention to the wind, which is always critical.
Always.
And then it's just being cool or trying to be as cool and calm as when it's peak rut and you see or hear that doe coming. I know for some people if it's brown, it's down, but during that magical 5 to 10 days, you might want to be a little patient and let that doe run by, because chances are there's somebody going to be a big boy right on our tail.
Oh, it's for sure. And what I want to mention, I'm going to back up a little bit. The timing on this was unbelievable, because I shot this deer at 11:30 in the morning, but it was exactly 1 year apart from the guy on the wall behind me, the same day.
Wow.
In the same area, like 500 yards maybe, if that, from where I shot that one. So Bob and I talked the day of, and I remember we talked about this, Bob, and you said it's more than likely it could even be the same doe that I let walk last year. Could have been in heat on the same day in the same spot, which I have no doubt.
Yeah, we have a stand like that. That's just I'll sneak in a little bit during the first week or two of November, and sometimes we'll see a few does, but we never see bucks there. And then all of a sudden the rut comes in, and it's been like clockwork. It's been the same spot, and it's crazy. Once those does come into heat, where there's smoke, there's fire, and it could be slow right up until that point. But boy, they become a whole different beast when the does come into estrus.
It's unreal. The timing was everything on that for sure. So I mean, you bet your butt you know where I'm going to be next year on November 12th. I'm going to be right back in that spot, because 2 in a row on the same day. That's I got to get back in there.
Yeah, that's 12. That's your lucky number, obviously. Let's have a little fun now. I'm going to fire some quick questions at you, and I want quick answers.
Got it.
Okay. What do you prefer, morning or afternoon?
Morning.
Why?
I feel like it's just like that clean, crisp forest. It wakes up. The forest waking up around you is unreal. When you go in the dark and it wakes up around you.
Same for bow or gun season?
Bow season, I'll be in the stand probably an hour before dark, but I actually like going in on foot with the gun when it's light.
All right. Mossy oak or real tree?
Oh, mossy oak.
All right, good man. If you had to pick one, gun or bow?
Oh, probably my 30-06, because that's what I spent the most time with. So gun.
Okay, well that answers the next question. Was favorite caliber? Obviously, it's a 30-06.
Yes, sir.
Action. Pump, bolt, semi-auto.
I love that gun because it's the same gun as semi-auto, but I've only had to put more than one round in like 2 deer my whole life with that gun. I know that it's tempting with that trigger for a semi-auto just to let them all fly for a lot of people, but I have some self-control, believe it or not. That I'm partial to that gun, so semi-auto. But for a beginner, I think single shot, break open barrel is smart.
Optics or open sights?
Optics.
Fixed or variable?
Fixed. No, sorry, my bad. Variable. I have a 3x9 on mine, but it also has the look under sights for iron sights for up close and personal.
Okay. Let's go back to bow for a minute. Fixed or mechanical?
Used to be a mechanical guy, but I am partial to fixed.
All right.
Too many malfunctions for me.
Well, you're using the wrong mechanicals.
I guess so, huh?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a whole new can of worms.
I was a fixed guy for years, and once I went to mechanicals, I never looked back. And
Guess we're gonna have to talk then.
yeah, I don't say this to brag or it's not bragging. It's a little embarrassing, but the first year I shot with a mechanical, didn't make the greatest shot, and I almost feel like if I was using a fixed, I might not have recovered that deer. But the damage
No
that I
kidding.
saw was absolutely crazy. And since then, I've tried a bunch. I mean, I have an opportunity to use just about every new broadhead that comes out, and I found some that really don't work.
Yep.
That I was very disappointed with, and I found others that work phenomenally well. But again, it's to each their own. Each has their advantages and disadvantages.
I agree.
Yeah, let's see. That's my rapid fire list. Let's bring Daniel in. Daniel, you must be. You have any burning questions you want to fire at Jake?
Well, kind of in your vein, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to kind of rapid fire off a few at you. What are you using for your regular go-to ammo in your 30-06?
I've never strayed. I use Remington 180s core locks, the flat nose, and they've never let me down. The only time my guns ever malfunctioned was when I tried running Winchester 150s through it, and it jammed on me when I was trying to take a follow-up shot on a moose, and I will never do it again.
Gotcha.
I didn't recover the moose.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that's
it's
well,
it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. It happens.
happens.
But the wound, it wasn't mortally wounded. It was just skinned on the neck, and we. Sorry. Little technical difficulties there. I won't use them again.
Now, for your bow, are you using a wrist trigger release or a thumb release?
I have a wrist release. That's what I learned with. I've never used a thumb release.
Got you.
We just have a true fire.
Yep. We have a couple of comments from a Facebook user. I'm thinking it's probably somebody you know because he says, "I remember that." And no, it's not holy cow, it's holy dough.
That's Rich Gamble. I'm willing to bet. That's probably the kid who got me into bow hunting right there.
Yep. Now, Jake, we're I know we're Maine deer hunters, and we're talking a lot about your deer guiding and your deer hunts, but
yes,
you're also a fishing guide.
I am. It's true.
Now, go ahead.
What's that?
I was going to say rapid fire.
Go ahead.
What's your hunting guide, fishing guide? Hunting guide,
Ooh.
Fishing guide.
I first started out with fishing. That was the first thing I did. So, it's what I knew, what I felt like I knew the most. But the more hunting I guide, the more I love it. And the more I'm becoming partial to guiding hunting. It's not working. Hey guys, hang on 1 second. Look, I got a helper here. Here we go. My other one. Where are you, bud? There he is. There's Sawyer.
Hey, Sawyer.
And then, guys, what are you doing? All right, I'm ready.
So, you're talking about your foundation of the hunt that you're kind of gonna roll out a program for this year. Do you have any similar things that you're going to do with your fishing guide?
I do. I've had many clients who've never even been fishing before, and they just want to learn a new thing, either a new skill or they want to learn. They want a new hobby. So one of my clients, you guys actually heard about today, a good friend of mine, Emily, who is going to help us out. She came to me through a referral through another mutual friend, Lou, who's probably watching this, I imagine. And her family that she's part of, none of them had really done much fishing, not since either they were kids or the young man who I started bringing with me because of them had never even been. So all I do for people like that is I bring them to small ponds with like very little pressure, and we go for warm water species like crappie, bass, pickerel, sunfish, stuff like that, because it's I like to call them instant gratification fish because they are fairly easy to catch, but it's what you learn from. So I grew up catching brook trout and knew how to catch brook trout when I was 5, but it's because I was born into a fishing family. Like my boy, I mean, his first fish was a 16-inch brown trout, but that was just by accident, you know. But just to see people catch their first fish really lights a fire inside me, just like seeing somebody shoot their first deer or light their first, you know, speaking of fire, light their first fire. You know, I mean, just basic skills that people can learn and then build upon after that. So that's where I try to do with the fishing.
Do you have anything else, Bob?
Yeah. So let's talk about your business is called Cast and Call Guide Service,
Yes.
and you're located where?
I am in Shapley, Maine, in York County.
Okay, so you're in York County.
Yep.
Hunting
Right near
fishing
Stanford.
trips. Let's say if I wanted to do a turkey hunt, what's involved? What are you gonna do for me as a client?
So turkey hunts usually we try to get in the woods at least a half an hour before sunrise to get settled, or so we're not spooking birds. And they usually last till about 11 o'clock or until they've tagged out. What I do is I bring my clients in the woods and we get settled into a good spot where I know there's birds. So I do my scouting. I make sure I either, weeks in advance, I'm going to make sure to see where these birds are and where they're roosting, and get set up on them. And the night before, I'll go check that area out to make sure they're still in there, to make sure the odds are in our favor. And I will call the bird in via mouth call or box call for my client, and to get them within shooting range. That's pretty much where it's at. I hunt hardwood ridges. I hunt swamp bottoms and fields, all depending on the weather, of course. And if we're hunting fields, a lot of times, if I can pinpoint where they're roosted, I'll use decoys, which will really fire up the toms and drag them right in. So sometimes.
All right. So for turkey, it's pretty much a one-on-one, fully guided.
Correct.
And then you said deer, you do fully guided, you do semi-guided.
Yep.
It's just no lodging, no meals, but you take care of the guiding the day of the hunt.
Yeah. I usually try to do, if it's a real long day, I'll try to do something nice over the fire, usually hot coffee or the Coleman stove or something like that. If we're doing a full day of fishing or hunting, I try to do something like that included in the package, Yeah.
All right. So hunting, fishing, and you're right now you're freshwater, but you're looking to branch out a little bit, maybe get some salt on your rods.
Yes. That's my next endeavor. I really like to get my Tidewater license. I'm very close to the Saco River, and the striper fishing can be top notch if you hit it at the right time. And I've seen some great fish come out of the Saco over the past few years. I think it was 2017 when we moved down here. I spent a season working on the Saco River Fishway, actually, and got to see firsthand just how many stripers there are in the Saco River going upstream trying to spawn in the spring. It's pretty unbelievable. And they don't let them pass through the fishway. So you're literally handling hundreds of stripers every day and dumping them back over the dam down like safely, but you're putting them back down the fish exit. And they're chasing the alewives up through the fishways. It's a pretty amazing thing to watch. And it really fired me up and made me want to get my salt license.
There you go. Well, onward and upward.
Yes, sir.
Jake Rackliff, Cast and Call Guide Service in Southern Maine. Freshwater fishing, turkey hunting, deer hunting, basic deer hunting education classes, and
sir,
going from there, building from there. One of the admins of Maine Deer Hunters and one of our sponsors. And again, we thank you. We thank you for your participation. We thank you for your generosity. It was a turkey hunt, right, that you donated?
Sorry.
It was a turkey hunt, a guided youth turkey hunt for the 12 Days of Christmas.
Oh, from me?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it was actually a guided deer hunt.
Oh, a guided deer hunt.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
That's all right. We're talking about guided youth hunts, so may as well stick a youth in there as a prop.
Yeah, she's next.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Bob.
I was just going to say thank you very much for being on and spending some time with us. And over to you, Daniel.
Well, and you get your daughter on your lap. Now would be a great time to let everybody know that our upcoming June shoot / family day at the Sportsman's Alliance of Maine Outdoor Education Center is very, very fortunate to have Jake, Tyler Lamb, Emily, and Lou are all going to be there, and they are going to be running the trout fishing portion of that day. So
yes.
to have you come up and do that for us is absolutely outstanding. Thank you so much.
I'm so happy to be part of all of it. And I've probably said this many times to you, and I've said it on live feeds, and I've said it to many other people. I wouldn't be where I am today without having help. It's why giving back is so important to me. I had older family, and I had friends and mentors over the years spend endless hours with me, and it helped mold me into the outdoorsman I am today. And I love helping people out because of that reason. And I will put my best foot forward and try to make them proud. And that's what I'm doing.
I know you will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I know we're very fortunate to have you on staff, and very, very fortunate that you're going to be joining us in our big June shoot. So everybody
Can't
mark
wait.
your calendars for that, June 11th at the Sportsman's Alliance of Maine Outdoor Education Center. And Bob, unless you have anything else, I think we can say goodnight.
Yeah, that's a wrap. Thanks again. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Jake. And everybody, have a good night. We'll see you soon with some more live feeds.
Have a
All right,
great night,
fellas.
everybody.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.